Hey beautiful people, welcome back. Today I wanted to look about how what we pay attention to can impact our mental, emotional and physical health, and leave you with a framework that you could use when looking at the things that are clamouring for your attention and whether they're helpful for your health and well-being. I'm Dr. Sally and I'm a medical doctor. I have a passion around root cause medicine and looking at all the things that we can be doing that taps into that innate ability within us to heal and repair and feel good, and really passionate about the healing of our bodies, our communities and our lands. Now, we have an industry at the moment that goes on and on about our well-being being about diet and exercise, and they are multi-million pound industries that are constantly clamouring for our attention. But it's really clear that actually there are many things that underpin our health. And yes, what we eat, when we eat, who we eat with, and where our food comes from, as well as how we move, are very important foundations that underpin our health. But there are other things that are important. In other places, I've talked about the importance of sleep, the importance of tackling stress, the importance of how we connect with ourselves, with others, and our landscape, and how these shape our well-being. But I wanted to take a moment to focus about how the stories we tell of ourselves, the thoughts that we entertain, the information that we take in, how that impacts, our health and well-being. Because again, just as we've sort of diminished health to being about diet and exercise, what we've also done, over the last couple of 100 years is we've separated out, the mind from the physical body, from our soul or our spirit life. And we've kind of declared that they're all separate and they don't impact each other. But it's not really scientific, because when you look at the science, it appreciates just how complex we are as human beings, all these diverse things going on, cooperating together and impacting how we experience and enjoy life, as individuals, as communities, as a planet. And really there is no silo approach to putting these things. They do have this overlap, and we have this incredible area of science now called neuropsychoimmunology. And really all that's saying is how, our thoughts and thinking and the stories that we tell ourselves impact the very sort of neurochemistry of our brain and the wiring of our brain, and the makeup of how our brain forms, and how that in turn, communicates with our body, our immune system that's responsible for keeping us disease-free and keeping us healthy. Now, I'm not saying that all disease comes from the way you think, but we have to accept the fact that it is part of the story. So when we're looking at trying to put some foundations, in place to help us thrive and feel good, this is an area that you might want to consider, or maybe even never considered as important, and made that link between what we're thinking and what we're listening to and reading, and the voices that we're taking in, how that's impacting how we experience life and impacting, our physical health. And, there are many things again that come into play that build up those stories of how we think about ourselves, how we think about the world, how we think about each other. And that's kind of the area of sort of psychiatry and psychotherapy. And we know that some of these stories come passed down from generations. And we know that some of it's formed, when we're in our mother's womb, and how stressed our mother is and how she's experiencing life. We know that they're formed in those very early days, right after birth, and in those weeks, months, and those early years before we even have language, and that they can form, some of these pathways in our brain of how we see ourselves, others, and the land around and the culture around. And there are ways, to, with the right therapist, to go back and unpack some of this and explore and change some of that, because these things impact how we experience adult life and can be problematic. However, that's not my area of experience. And what I wanted to talk to you today was a little bit about all the voices that are clamoring, for our attention at the moment, and how that impacts how we feel and experience life. And I don't know about you, but I just find, it overwhelming. I've recently taken all my social media and emails off my phone because there's just this constant distraction, and really we can only experience life in the present. Yet I found I was spending so much of my time and my mind somewhere else, engaging in emails or other people's stories, and realizing how those stories that I'm reading can impact how I feel about myself and about the world around. And felt challenged again. I often look to nature to learn from her. And here we are in autumn again, and the leaves are falling, and recently I was walking through the woods and the wind's blowing, and now that the leaves have gone, all the dead wood is being blown through the trees and is on the ground, this decluttering, making room for sort of new growth. And I felt challenged about what I was paying attention to, and how that impacts the way I'm feeling about myself and the world. And so wanted to share with you, because I know from the science that these stories we're telling ourselves is impacting how we experience life, and often robbing us of the joy of it. And I think we have a responsibility to look at the voices that we're letting shape our thinking. And that can be from the music we listen to, the podcasts, the books we read, the TV we digest. It can be the conversations and the people we hang around, and the environments that we put ourselves in can impact, this way we feel and impact our physical health. And maybe there's a responsibility in us to start looking and asking some questions about these things, and not be hijacked by them, but take back control and choosing, what we choose to pay attention to. And, I don't think there's a right or wrong about, whether we should be watching Netflix or Twitter or whatever it is. I think the question is, does it bring life? And so I wrote a few questions, I put them down for you. And looking at something that you're watching, or apps that you're using, or profiles that you follow on social media, asking the question is this loving? Does this grow me, or does it actually make me feel crap and diminish me? Does this challenge me to become a better person? Does this call me to be the best version of myself? And does this message do me good? Does it do my family good? And does it do my community good? They're simple yet powerful questions, and we have a huge amount of control actually over what we pay attention to. And I can assure you that as we choose at this point, right way far back, what we pay attention to, that will have repercussions down the line, shaping how we see ourselves, how we see the world, and how we feel about ourselves and the world. So I've certainly done some decluttering over the last few weeks. I've taken off my social media and my emails for a season. They're not inherently bad, but I just needed a break from the messages, and to come back to choosing what I engage in, and let my mind, engage with. And so I just put that thought out for you. I hope it helps you. Do share this if you think it will help somebody. Subscribe to my channel. I don't tend to put an opportunity to put your comments, because I'm fragile in some ways, and find, when people want to be vicious to me, I find it really hurtful. And so for a season, actually, I've turned off my comments because I just don't want to engage with it. But if you do want to engage with me and you do have some feedback, just send me an email that's in the link here. So have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.